Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast.
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. It's all dog around this mug. I'm good.
Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, TJay Jones, and yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. Thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. Shouts out to everybody tuning in, no matter where you are, wherever you may be. Special shout out to those that are watching or listening to this at work, those that are listening at the gym. Those that are in the chat right now, I want to give a special shout out to, I see Barbara in here. I see Jack in here. I see Jacob. Shouts out to everybody that is here right now. I really do appreciate it. But I also want to give a special shout out to all those out there that probably not watching this live, but probably going to catch it after the show. Those that won't be in the comments, not the live comments, but those individuals that, hide out and put their comments at the end of the show. Shouts out to what I like to call the after show boys.
Shouts out to them after show boys. Shouts out to them after show boys. They be tweeting and be posting. They be tweeting and be posting. They be tweeting. Yeah, them after show boys. They be tweeting and be posting. They be tweeting and be posting. They be tweeting. Yeah, them after show boys.
Yeah, shouts out to all the after show boys out there, man. After show boys. Y'all know what I'm talking about, man. The people that hide out in the chat, always willing to tell you what you did wrong, what you saying wrong, what you are, but never have the balls to call the show. So we got a little segment for them. Shouts out to all the after show boys, the ones that seem to always say I never know what I'm talking about, but always tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Those numbers count. But this show is not about all that. It's about you. It's about you, the Who Dat Nation. I said on the last episode, I took some time off because I got tired of talking about the same thing over and over again, the same topics over and over again when it comes to the New Orleans Saints. I didn't want to just be a broken record. So I decided to kind of change some things up. And we're going to do a Saints Q&A today, rapid fire. I'm going to try to go through as many comments as I possibly can, answering your question, reading your comments, and that's what this show is going to be dedicated to. I'm also excited to say that a new episode of the Unapologetic Podcast will be back this evening. I have one of my good friends with me, one of my college buddies, Mike Walls. He'll be guest hosting with me. We'll be talking about the death of OJ Simpson, and also we're going to be talking about dating in 2024. So it's not sports related, but it's a little bit of something different that I've been kind of doing as of late. So if you have not subscribed to the Unapologetic Podcast, I don't know what for. It's some pretty good stuff right there. So go to youtube.com, search Unapologetic Podcast. We got some people filing in, as you know, that just kind of, just saying a few things, doing a little church announcements, a few church announcements, just kind of getting everybody, into the chat. Feel free. And once again, this is Saints Q&A. So if you have a question for me, question about the New Orleans Saints, a comment about the New Orleans Saints, feel free to put it down in the chat. All right. So we'll go ahead and get started. We'll go ahead and start with my guy Slim South says, Who Dat Kings and Queens, giving a shout out to everybody. Chris says, what's up, bruh? No Cap, No Filter says, I'm excited when we have a new head coach and quarterback. Yeah, I think a lot of people kind of echo your sentiments on that. No Cap. A lot of people feel like this team, needs a new head coach and a new quarterback, but we'll see, man. It's 2024. It's a new season. I like to believe that things are going to pretty much stay the same as long as these two individuals are, leading a charge. But who knows? I mean, based on some of the new additions that they have to the team, maybe the team will look a little bit different. Now, I will say that I feel like the offense is going to look different because of who they have as their coordinator. It's a different look, but I still feel like it's going to come down to some really solid coaching, and the Saints don't really have a really good coach. So Kevin says, "What's up, TJ?" And Sim says, "Will the Saints draft another wide receiver?" Yes, they will draft another wide receiver. I'm pretty confident that they will draft another wide receiver. Slim, I don't know when. I don't know if it's going to be in the first round. I don't think that would be smart. But hey, I mean, this is the Saints organization that we're talking about. Everybody doesn't know what they're talking about, for the exception of the Saints organization. Any suggestions or anything that people say is stupid unless the Saints actually come up with it. But if you're smart, you would draft an offensive lineman in the first round. You need offensive line help. It's just that simple. It's just that plain. But you have plenty more draft picks later on in the draft where you can address the wide receiver position. So it really doesn't matter if you don't get one in the first 2 rounds. This is a pretty deep draft at the wide receiver position. You can get a very talented guy in the later rounds of the draft. So if you don't hear the Saints, drafting, or you don't see the Saints drafting a wide receiver early, not to fret, because there's a lot of talented wide receivers later in the draft, but I think they're going to end up drafting one. Saints can be Saints can pretty much draft any position, and it's a need. Jack, I agree with you on that. And we've had shows in the past where we kind of talked about that, and we kind of said, you know what? It doesn't matter what angle the Saints come from. It doesn't matter what they do. It's going to be beneficial to this team because they got so many different holes. But the more you look at what's going on the offensive line, the more you take a look at some of the things that are happening there with Ryan Ramczyk, his status up in the air, not really knowing what you have from Trevor Penning, your first round pick a couple of years ago. You might want to address the offensive line. So that seemed like that should be the top priority. But if they weren't to draft a offensive lineman in the first round, I don't think it would be too upsetting. You trying to get on camera? Come on. Now he think he a superstar now because everybody kind of know him. You gonna say who that?
Who that?
All right. What we doing is we answering questions from the Who Dat Nation. All right. So we gonna read it, and then Daddy gonna answer some of these questions. All right. All right. Let's see. Say TJ, who that to all in the nation. Love the show. You keep it 100 as always. Well, thank you so much, Tyrell. We really do appreciate that.
We appreciate that. It's the Daddy's favorite store.
Okay.
Amen.
Amen. Let's see. What does the Saints' current coach staff rank in NFL? Well, Barbara, they're ranked pretty low, especially like when you look at the head coach. You look at Dennis Allen being ranked as one of the lowest ranked head coaches that you can have that's currently active. Everybody that was ranked underneath him no longer has a job. So by the process of elimination, he's dead last, and he's considered the worst head coach in the NFL. I mean, that's not me saying it. I mean, this is analytics. Let's see. Alfred says, I remember when Sean Payton first quit on us, you mentioned that we might have some bad years ahead. Did you think it would be this bad? Well, to be honest with you, I didn't think it. To be honest with you, it's not. I don't want to say it's not bad, but it's been worse. And I think that if you're a new Saints fan, it's kind of different for you because you haven't experienced this. Like, I think about when Sean Payton and Drew Brees first came to New Orleans in 2006, a lot of you were young and you don't really remember how bad the New Orleans Saints were before those two individuals got to New Orleans. So even though it's been bad, I mean, I've seen worse. I've seen some bad Saints football. So it's a reflection of them not wanting to embrace the future. This is what you're seeing right now. But I'm with the addition of Clint Kubiak and some of these new coaches that they're bringing in, it's kind of showing us they are at least willing to try to embrace the future and what's going on in NFL that is positive, like things that are working, right? So that's what I see. But I didn't think they were going to be as good because Sean Payton does matter. Like Sean Payton is a really good football coach. So to think that you can just bring anybody in and they'll just get this team over the hump, I just think that was just wishful thinking. Like great coaches are great coaches for a reason. Let's see. Did you hear about the Dak Prescott Derek Carr trade rumor? Thought. Roderick, that is not real. That is not real, man. Somebody put that out there, basically just as a joke to try to troll people to try to see if it can actually get some traction. It is not true. There's nothing. There's no credible insider that is reporting that type of stuff at all. I haven't seen it unless somebody has come out upon me making this video. I haven't heard that. Like that's basically just kind of rumor and innuendo there. Let's see. Saints saving money after giving Derek Carr $150 million. Well, I say this. They gave him $150 million. It's not really a bunch of money if you look at some of the other quarterbacks in the league. But when you're a team that's struggling to try to make make it to the black every single year, yeah, that was a little bit of an investment there. O-line and D-line are the main factors in the draft. Yeah, I mean, the offensive line is top priority to me. The defensive line is something that you need to address. You ready to get down? All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. A packing man. All right.
Okay, Dad.
All right.
It's over.
Nah, we still got a little bit more to go, buddy.
Okay.
But when it comes to the defensive line, they can probably address that a little bit later. In the draft. So it's not that imperative, especially since you got like Chase Young as your guy. As a pass rusher, he has to have surgery, but he should be ready to rock and roll. At the towards the beginning of the season, or like a few games into the season. So, offensive line is top priority to me. Heard about OJ and looked. Let me see. Look at Askins at it. Let me see. I'm gonna talk a little bit about OJ Simpson for those that may not be able to check out the Unapologetic. I mean OJ Simpson. We all know, man. He's a controversial figure. He's a guy who's quite frankly, he's a guy who is wrapped up in a bunch of scrutiny, a bunch of controversy, and always has been a part of that like since like 94. And it's crazy like how he started. Like everybody loved this guy, right? And then I can remember like him running through the airport in those Hertz commercials. I can remember like all those Naked Gun movies he was on with Leslie Nielsen. Like this guy was beloved. And then of course it happened in 94 and the rest is just history. But when you look at a guy like that, right? What he's known for, is two things. One is absolutely horrible. And then the other thing is something that's very special if you're a sports fan. Like he was one of the best running backs in the history of football. And there's some times where, we don't want to give guys or women credit. Like if they do something bad, we try to like throw away everything that they have done and all the accolades and everything. But I mean, two things can be true. Like you can have an individual that may have done a disgusting or allegedly done a disgusting thing, and on the flip side, they probably done something that make a lot of people bring a lot of people joy and excitement. And he's one of those individuals. It's almost like R. Kelly, right? R. Kelly is a controversial figure, in jail right now for some of the things that he did, but you'll be lying if you say that R. Kelly hasn't made music that makes you feel good or make music that you can actually enjoy. So two things can be true. So, it depends on what side of the fence that you stand on. Some people get upset at the fact that OJ Simpson, people are saying rest in peace to him, and people are like, how dare you? But look, only God can judge at the end of the day. I'm a man of faith, and I believe in what Matthew 7 says, right? I mean, how can you look at the speck in your neighbor's eye and you got a beam in yours? Like, you shouldn't judge individuals. That's up to God to do. So I mean, he was an incredible football player, and that's what he's going to be remembered for, just as much as the 1994 trial that honestly created this world that we're living right now. Like, you may not, people may not want to admit it, but OJ Simpson created this reality world that we live in, because that trial back in 1994 was one of the most highly rated like television shows. Even though it wasn't a show, it was highly rated, and it just shows society like people really care about what goes on in people's lives. They wanted to peel back that curtain, thus ushered in a whole new wave of what we call reality TV. Reality TV. What we see right now. I mean, it brought in the reality TV. So that's the way I look at it. That's the way I see it. So in the midst of some negativity, there was some positive, things that he did in his life, and a lot of people eating off what OJ started. Let's see. Even with the turnovers on the offensive staff, I don't expect great things from the offense. I expect regression. It takes time for a new offense to gel and to become prolific proficient in it. Excuse me. Yeah, Barbara. Yeah, that's true. But some teams, they'll hit the ground running. Like, it depends on like how much practice they do, like how effective they are when it comes to like getting together. I mean, they may hit the ground running, or like you said, it may take some time, but hopefully they can just hit the ground running. They got the offensive coordinator in place. They pretty much got like the guys that are going to be running this team. Most of the individuals that are going to come in are going to serve in more of a backup role, more of a role where more of a role like, you're jockeying for a position or trying to compete for a job. Who your quarterback is, who your running back is, who your starting wide receiver is, who your starting tight end is. So you kind of can hit the ground running. The only thing is maybe like getting some offensive line play in there. But, if you're working with your skill position guys, like, you should be hitting the ground running, when it's time to, put that work in. Lil man is your twin, TJ. Well, that's what a lot of people say. If I didn't hear that very much, I guess my wife will have some explaining to do. And I'm just kidding, man. I'm just kidding, man. I hear that all the time, man. But some of you had opportunity and have seen like Paxton grow up right in front of his camera, man. And it's always great, man. Anytime I cut this camera on, like he comes into the room, man, and he's on spring break. He's been on spring break for the past couple of weeks. He goes to school year round, so he's been hanging out with me at the radio station, and he loves to be there. And it's pretty cool to bring my son to work and have a job where he can see what I do every single day, and kind of enjoy me kind of putting everything together. So it's pretty cool as a dad to be able to do something that my son looks at and wants to be a part of. Like, at the beginning of this show, that's his voice in the background, and that's how I'm gonna start every podcast that I do, man, because everybody know how much that little boy means to me, man. So yeah, it's pretty cool. When I watch let me see, New Orleans Football podcast, it seemed like the Saints not really in a win now mode. Seems like a slight rebuild as of today. Do you think we in for another mid-season or worse? Alfred, look, first off, shouts out to New Orleans Football. They do an outstanding job over there, and I mean that show just continues to grow. One of the fastest shows I was seeing to get to 100,000 subscribers. Unbelievable stuff there. So those guys work extremely hard. But the reality is, I do feel like they're in a rebuild. Like, you don't have to mention it, you don't have to say it. But if you're a fan and you see the direction that this team is actually going in, you know that this is a little bit of a rebuild. This is going to be a little bit of a tough sled for the New Orleans Saints. And I just feel like maybe we just need to lower our expectations a little bit. I think right after Sean Payton left, we kind of felt like, oh, this team had the right pieces in place in order for them to make a run. But as you can see, like there's levels to this thing. There's levels to leadership. And Sean Payton brought a level of leadership that Dennis Allen has yet to bring. And Dennis Allen is trying to figure it out. Will he figure it out? Some of us feel like it's probably not going to happen. Some people feel like it's a wait and see. But you have to say that this is a rebuild. You have to say that this is a team that's trying to figure it out. They're trying to find their identity post Sean Payton and Drew Brees still. You know, the fact that I'm still mentioning Sean Payton and still mentioning Drew Brees in 2024, when both of these individuals are 4 seasons removed, or in Sean Payton's case, 3 seasons removed from, being a part of this organization, it's pretty sad. Like it just tells you, like the direction that this team is going in. Like I want to I want to always have an appreciation, and I am going to have an appreciation for Sean Payton and Drew Brees. But the fact that I'm still talking about them in a form of the glory days, it's starting to sound like Cowboy fans when they start talking about 95, when they have some down years or they lose in the playoffs when they should be winning. That's what we're starting to sound like. And it's getting, I hate to say it, but it's getting a little pathetic. When you think about it, man. And, I don't want to feel like that as a fan. I don't want to feel like that as an onlooker, a person that reports to you and, writes columns and stuff like that about the team. I want to have some optimism, and I want to have better shows. I want to have better shows where I'm talking about the Saints living up to their potential. But right now, this is a team that's trying to figure it out and basically trying to psych themselves up because they ain't psyching me up. They're trying to psych themselves up to believe that they actually are a contender when in reality, they're not. They're not a contender. And you just got to be real with yourself. Like, it doesn't make you any less of a Saints fan to pretty much state the obvious here, right? Nobody takes pleasure in bashing or talking badly about their favorite football team, but you got to call a spade here, right? So that's how I look at it. Let me see. If the glove don't fit, you must acquit. Rest in peace to Johnny Cochran. Let's see. His pocketbook didn't get acquitted. No, it did not. It did not. I can't help but to judge DA and Derek Carr. Yeah, I mean, look, I feel like this, right, Linda? There's okay. I guess this is the portion where I was giving a little bit of a dialogue about OJ. All right, so you say you can't help but to judge DA and Derek Carr. Here's the difference, right? When you're judging DA and Derek Carr, you're judging them based on what you actually have seen, right? And you're basically looking at like these guys aren't performing up to the best of their ability. So it's a job, right? It's a job. It's like it's no different from your job. If you don't show up to work, if you don't put forth the effort, right, and your boss is looking at you, he's judging you based on your performance, and based on that, he's calling you into the office if you're not putting forth your best effort, and he's maybe going to give you a stern talking to, or if he or she has constantly like been talking to you, probably going to give you the pink slip. That's not, to me, that's not so much judging. It's more so like you are coming up with a conclusion based on the performance, right? Based on the performance. Now, what the job entails, you do your job to the best of your ability or you get fired. When it comes to, OJ Simpson, like, I'm looking at it like when it comes to like his accolades, right? I'm not, like what he did to me. If he did it, right, he gotta quit it. But if he did it, it's terrible. But I'm in a realm of two things can be true, right? I mean, look at two things can be true. No, number one, a person can be really good at something, right? They can be really, really good at something, but they can be a horrible human being. They can have done a horrible thing, but it still don't take away from the fact that they're good. For example, Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is, in my opinion, the greatest basketball player of all time. The greatest. I don't think it gets no better. I understand about LeBron and all that, but Michael Jordan is the guy. But the way that he treats kids, the way that he treats people that, wanted autograph or want a picture with him, I mean, he's a horrible human being when it comes to that. But when it comes to basketball, he was great. So I just think that two things can be true. I think in society sometimes, like we basically try to wrap a person all in just one big bow, right? He's a horrible person, so therefore, you shouldn't like anything about him, or like erase everything that they done. But you can't do that, man. Like OJ Simpson was the best running back of his era, or one of the best running backs of his era. And that's what he's going to be known for. Some people, were kids when he was actually playing football. They're gonna remember him for that. Just like I never seen OJ play football. I was born in 1986. I think he retired like around 82 or 83 or something like that. So I didn't see him play. So I remember OJ from the Naked Gun movies and being a smiley, nice guy as the sideline reporter on NBC when I was a kid. So, and of course, the whole trial thing that happened back in '94, which I was 8 years old at the time. So it depends. And some people, they're being told what OJ did, because you got to think about it. Like if you were born in 2000, how the hell do you know OJ besides the fact that somebody told you about it? Right? You're a 24-year-old person or a 23-year-old person, and oh, he's a terrible person. He's like, how do you know? Like, you ain't even watching it or know about it. But that's how society does. Sometimes society grooms us to believe certain things, and we need to draw our own conclusions. So there you go. Let's see. Dom, stay winning. Says, why media posting OJ courtroom pictures and only white folks, only one still chastising him for something he was found innocent on? So disrespectful. Well, I ain't gonna lie to you. I posted a picture when he was in court too, because here's the thing. Once again, we can pretend that like he just played football, but that's just not the case. I posted a picture of him being in the courtroom because he is a controversial figure, and he's controversial because of that situation right there. So I when I posted, I didn't even, what I'm saying, I didn't even like think twice about what this would have meant. But all I'm saying is he's a controversial person. So I feel like even when with me really come to the conclusion about that picture that I tweeted, he's a controversial figure. I mean, like he was a great football player, but he was a controversial figure too. So I mean, but I feel like he should be known. If you're gonna say, he's known for, what happened in '94, you got to say that he's known also for being one of the best running backs of all time. And of course, people are going to be upset. My biggest issue is people like just talking about how dare you post this. Like, man, I ain't realized that Job or Jesus was online. I really didn't. I really didn't. I understand like how can people who are so people act like they so blameless can tell you how you need to feel about a certain person or a certain thing. Lil Man will be a drummer. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he will, because he likes to like beat on like desk and all that kind of stuff there. Like we went to the UPS store earlier today. He beating on the scale that you put you put your packages on. I'm like, man, you got to stop that. But yeah, man, he's full of energy and is always willing to learn. Yeah, really, really smart kid. Do you think we will trade Kamara, Hill, or Juwan? I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening. I think they all going to be very instrumental to what the Saints are going to do this season. Let's see. If we don't make the playoffs for a fourth straight season and DA doesn't get fired, then hopefully Gail will get rid of Mickey then. Thank you for the 499, cool. Not happening. All right. Mickey Loomis is not just your typical general manager. He is third in command of the New Orleans Saints organization. He was left. He was put in the will of the late Tom Benson. So this isn't just a regular general manager that we're talking about. This is a guy who has, you can kind of say, some unlimited power. And unless Dennis Lausch and Gail Benson like have a conversation with him, I don't see him stepping down. And even if he was to step down as general manager, he still is third in command. So he still can kind of dictate the direction the team actually goes in without having the title of general manager. So there's no way around it. The only thing you can do as far as Mickey Loomis is concerned is just hope that he comes to the conclusion like, well, maybe I can find somebody else and completely like just step away from football operations and handling football ideas and football situations, but I don't see that happening. So you can let him go from being a general manager, but I mean, what's the point when this guy's third in command of the entire football team, the entire organization? Difference between Lions and us, Dan is rah-rah guy. Players run through walls for him. Ben is X's and O's tactician. Golf is liked by his players and takes accountability. Roster not that far apart. KK is, well, I feel like there's no cap. I kind of mentioned the Detroit Lions and Dan Quinn. Yeah, it's just a different type of coach. Dan Campbell rather. Dan Campbell is not really a good football coach. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like he's not a good football coach, but he wears his emotions on his sleeve, and he's so passionate about the game of football and the guys that runs out of the tunnel with him that you kind of just want to rally behind him. And you want to play well for him to prove him right. So he has that going for him. Dennis Allen, to me, is a guy that I just feel like just has a job. I understand that certain players are going to be treated different based on their skill set and their abilities, but I just think that I don't think he has it. I don't, and I don't think it's rather you're born with it or you just don't have it at all. And I just think that he just does not have it at all. And you can put pieces around him to make him look better than what he actually is. But if you take those pieces away, it's going to go back to being the same thing that it's always been. So I don't know. If the Saints don't win the division next year, do you think Loomis will try to push DA down our throats for another year? I hope not. I hope not. If he does that next year, if the Saints have a down year, like they're going to lose the fan base for real. They're going to lose the fan base for real. Like people are going to walk away from the football team, but probably end up like watching some other football team because that would just be straight up 100% overkill. Because what excuse do you have? What excuse do you have for a third season, right? Okay, first season, it was a bunch of Sean Payton like layovers, right? So you got rid of them. You got the defensive guys that you wanted, but you still had some offensive layovers. You got rid of the offensive layovers this season, though you bring in the offensive staff that you want. So now you got the offensive staff you want, you got the defensive staff you want, you got 3 seasons of the guys that you want as far as the personnel group. And if you still can't get it together, like what more do you need to see? Like if you bring him back after a down year after this season, if the Saints can't make it to the postseason, if they can't come up with some double-digit wins this season, you gotta let him go. You gotta let him go. Because people are getting restless when it comes to this guy. Like people don't even want to hear this guy talk. People really become like disinterested in the team. And like nobody believes what he's saying. TJay is a member of the Who Dat Nation. I feel the Saints are not giving us anything to be excited about. With the number 14 pick, we need to make a splash in the draft. Then we will get excited. I don't know if that's going to be what it takes, Pelicans Nola. I don't know if that's going to be the case. You got to win some football games. Like the time where you can just bring in an LSU player that we remember and love and bring in a New Orleans native or bring in this guy, like that ain't gonna move the needle anymore. Like we seen players that we should be excited about, right? And they get on the team and nothing happens. I mean, Jimmy Graham came back for for one season, and people were excited about that. Barely got on the field. I remember Jarvis Landry. He got signed by New Orleans Saints. Didn't live up to the expectations. You had other New Orleans native guys out there like Foster Moreau and Kurt Merritt and all the other guys. You know what I'm saying? Like you got all these different dudes that have come being a part of this team, but honestly, like that ain't gonna move the needle anymore. People want to see wins. People want to see results. People want to see this team like live up to its potential. So it's beyond like what you're gonna do in the draft. Like those days are over. It's hard. Love them. Says Who Dat for life. If Kubiak does well, what are the chances of him becoming head coach, Saints or somewhere else? Well, Herschel, there's a huge chance because the NFL is always looking for the next wonder kid. They're always looking for the next great head coach, the next the next leader of men. So if Clint Kubiak does well, he more than likely will get a head coaching opportunity. If the Saints do well enough in order for them to look good offensively but still don't win, I can see the Saints looking at him as the potential successor to Dennis Allen. I can see that happening, but that's what it's all about. I mean, we seen the offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We seen him Canales go to the Carolina Panthers as their new head coach. He was only with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for one season, but in that one season, he turned around the career of Baker Mayfield. Got Baker Mayfield paid. So teams are always looking for the next big thing. He got that old New Orleans musician in him. Let's see. Mickey needs to step down to operations and take his beam accounting ways there and hire a true GM. Well, Jack, I don't see that happening. Like, even if that's the case, like, what you're asking is, okay, if he steps down, he still is the vice president of the entire team. So he doesn't have to be the general manager. He can still like override anything the general manager does. This goes beyond. I want people to understand this. This goes beyond just him being a general manager. If he steps down, he still controls what happens with the Saints organization. So when people say, man, they need to fire Mickey. Okay. Like, so what? Okay, another example. Everybody knows I'm a wrestling fan, right? Okay, Vince McMahon was the CEO of WWE, right? Until like all this controversy started to come out. They sold their company to Endeavor. He got a big, huge mammoth payday because of it, right? But he stepped down because of all that controversy and everything like that. But the dude still getting paid from WWE. He's still getting paid. So just because you don't see him in the forefront anymore doesn't mean that he ain't getting paid. It doesn't mean that, he ain't benefiting from it. Doesn't mean that, and for a short period of time before all the controversy happened, he still was calling the shots behind the scenes. So just because Mickey Loomis was step down as the general manager does not mean that he can't call the shots, because he still would be the vice president of the New Orleans Saints organization. So it's beyond just saying, oh, fire Mickey. I just want people, honestly, to stop saying it. Because it makes you sound like, look, and I'm not trying to beat up on anybody, but it makes you sound kind of ridiculous. It's kind of like, okay, it's like the late Dave Thomas, right? Dave Thomas owned Wendy's, right? Dave Thomas, let's just say, for example, Dave Thomas for a long period of time was on all the commercials, right? And then when he started to get older, you start to see him phase out. But just because Dave Thomas wasn't around and not on the Wendy's commercial doesn't mean that he wasn't getting paid, or he wasn't instrumental in some of the commercials that were coming out that didn't have him in it, right? He's still getting paid. He still like has his hand on the organization. So when people say, man, Mickey needs to go, like, well, okay, get somebody else in here. And guess who they're going to have to report to? That's right, Mickey Loomis. Don't nobody want to play for us. See, honestly, look at Chase Young, composure during his interview. He was like, "This the only team I could come to." Well, yeah. I mean, he wanted to, man. He wanted to go to the Carolina Panthers. That was the first choice for him. That was the first choice. He wanted to be in Carolina. He wanted to play for them. They didn't even give him a physical. They did not give him a physical at all because they knew about his whole neck issue. The Saints were the only team that were willing to give him an opportunity and look past the fact that he needed surgery. He did not take a physical because, they already knew what was going on with him and they were willing to take that chance. That's how he ended up being with the Saints. Now, some people will say, well, the Saints weren't Drew Brees' first choice either. Yeah, that's true. That is true. But you never got the indication that Drew Brees did not want to be in New Orleans. You never got that indication. He always embraced it. He always embraced the fact of being in New Orleans. You never looked at that, as like, oh man, Drew Brees, like, man, this dude didn't want to be with us. He gave his all. Like, this man gave us every ounce of talent that he had inside of his body, every bit of athleticism that he had into what he was doing and being the Saints quarterback. So, I mean, when it comes to Chase Young, maybe he look at it like, man, this team actually believed in me. So I'm going to go out there and I'm going to prove them right. And not to mention, I mean, it's only a 1-year deal. So you might want to play your best. So the following year, you can get a massive payday from rather the Saints or somewhere else. Honestly, at 14, I would take Fashanu, and second, I'll take Jatavian Sanders. I think that's hope you spell his name. Or I guess you're saying I hope that's how you spell his name. Yeah, look, Jadavian Sanders. Yeah, I mean, I think he's a talented guy. He was a tight end out of Texas. Olu Fashanu, to me, is the best offensive lineman in the draft. I know people saying Joe Alt, but I'm a Fashanu guy. I'm always going to go with the guy who is the most athletic and the big, the strongest, the fastest that you can find. So yeah, if the Saints get Olu Fashanu, they got themselves something. Sanders, to me, I mean, you can get yourself a pass catching tight end, but I honestly, I don't know if you're going to do that in the second round. Honestly, in the second round, if there was a quarterback available, I think I would draft a quarterback in the second round. Mickey ain't going nowhere till he dead. Wow. Let's see. I remember Dave Thomas. Yeah, I remember Dave Thomas, the Wendy's guy, and I remember Dave Thomas, the tight end for the Saints. But nah, Dave Thomas, I mean, anybody that was around my age remember when Dave Thomas used to be in those Wendy's commercials, which I found out, like, I was watching this docuseries on Dave Thomas, and man, people were talking about he was a pretty mean guy, but I don't know, man. He has a really good origin story, though. I mean, I think he grew up in a foster system and basically, man, just turned that tragedy into triumph, and now Wendy's is everywhere. Shouts out to them chicken nuggets. Let's see. Breeze saw deep into this thing. Yeah, I mean, Drew Brees embraced it. Drew Brees looked at, okay, Miami didn't want to take a chance on him because of what the doctor said. Okay, the Saints did. I mean, it's kind of the same situation, right? Miami said no because the doctors said that he's not going to be the quarterback that you need. Same thing with Carolina, right? We're not going to give you a physical, man. We're not even going to do that, right? And the Saints are willing to give him that chance. And now look at it. Now look, they signed him, so hopefully it paid dividends. That's okay. Hopefully Chase Young will take that personal and ball out on the Panthers when we play them. Yeah, that's why I say, you take that as motivation, and you take that motivation and you go out there and you play your best. And you're on a 1-year deal. You go out there, have a monster year. You can set the market in 2025. I know we may not want to hear that, but look, if he has a monster season, that means that it's going to work for the Saints, right? I mean, if he goes out there and he gets double-digit sacks, the Saints are going to be the recipients of that. So we need wide receiver in the second, no question. I don't want to say no question, but I see where you're going. I see where you're going with it. I'm not mad at any position at the same draft in the first 2 rounds. I mean it. I mean it. Like, the only position I would scratch my head if they draft a running back in the first 2 rounds. That would be the only position I'd be like, what the hell are y'all doing? Other than that, I think that any position that they draft, they need. So I couldn't get upset. If Kubiak has the Saints offense in the top 5 next season, he's gone if they don't fire DA. Yep. And that's my biggest issue. Like, did you help the situation? Or did you basically just mask the imperfections of Dennis Allen? That would be my question. Like, if Clint Kubiak goes out there, like you said, Paul, and they're in the top 5, okay. All right, now you have to go out here and try to find yourself another offensive coordinator that can replicate that again, because you're basically covering up for the imperfections of Dennis Allen. It's rather he's a good coach, he's not. Like, you can put a good infrastructure in place, right? You can put or I don't want to say you can put a good infrastructure. Let's just say, you know what I'm saying, you can put, okay, yeah, but like, okay, for people as from New Orleans, y'all know sometimes, you have hurricane season and it's raining, right? And the rain is just raining and raining. All of a sudden, the rain is starting to rise, right? And this for my po folk out there. You remember when your mama or your daddy used to put like the wet, you know what I'm saying, like the towels underneath the door or something like that, or something, you know what I'm saying, to absorb the rain, right? But at the same time, the clothes are still going to get saturated. And if enough rain comes, the rain's still going to seep off, you know what I'm saying, the towels or the cloth or whatever you put to try to seal the door, and it's still going to run into the house. So my point is, you can try to masquerade this or try to like put up this fake infrastructure to try to make Dennis Allen look the part, but it's only a matter of time before he gets exposed. You basically going to have to keep on keep on recycling this plan, because to me, like, he still is not a good football coach. And you have to count on the people that's around him in order for them to work, in order for him to work. Does that make sense? Like, if Clint Kubiak comes and makes the Saints a top 5 offense, and the Saints offense is booming, right? And let's just say, for example, the Saints win 11 or 12 games. And like Paul said, Clint Kubiak gonna be gone. He's gonna get a head coaching job. And that leaves you with Dennis Allen trying to figure it out. So let's just say if you get yourself a middle of the pack or somebody that's kind of was on the same level as Pete Carmichael was as the coordinator, the Saints are going to go right back to being 8-9, 9-8, 7-10. So you got to kind of keep this in place. That's why I'm asking a question. Like, did the Saints actually fix their issues, or did they just cover up for Dennis Allen? That would be my question. Tell you this, we need a head coach, not a headache. I agree with that. Put pots under the holes in the roof. Yeah, exactly. The roof leaking, you put pots, from the kitchen, to make sure that it when the raindrops come in, it falls into that bucket. Or, when when I was growing up, my grandfather, who was a carpenter, a contractor, sometimes when the roof was leaking, would take those 5-gallon buckets and put it, put it underneath the drop, right? So, yeah, man, look, you only can cover that up for so long. M.1 can hope. Let's see, if DA gets fired, he will never, have a head coaching job again. Well, Platinum, I mean, that is not necessarily a bad thing. And that doesn't mean that he can't make an honest living and continue to, like, really be an effective coach. I mean, look at Steve Spagnuolo. Steve Spagnuolo wasn't a good head coach. Wasn't a good head coach on a temporary basis for the Saints. Wasn't a really good head coach when he was coaching the St. Louis Rams. But, as a coordinator, he's one of the best. He's known for that defensive coordinator performance against the undefeated Patriots. He's helped the Kansas City Chiefs win a few Super Bowls. So just because a guy isn't good at a head coach doesn't mean that he's not good as a coordinator. We see this all the time. Sometimes guys just don't fit that head coaching, that head coaching I guess like formula, like I guess it's just one of those things where it's rather you got it or you don't. Just don't. It just not them. Like some guys just can't deal with the day-to-day operations. But if you put them in a position like we want you to coordinate this, they'll put everything together. And that's why I look at when I see Dennis Allen. He's a well-organized, really smart, defensive-minded coach. So that's the way I look at him. Like he's a guy who he's a guy that really knows how to coach some defense. Like that's one thing that I hate. Like that's why you kind of want him to work out a little bit, because he is a really good defensive mind. And if he does leave, I feel like there's going to be a drop off with the defense. When is the NFL draft? The NFL draft is April 25th. That's on a Thursday. It's April 25th. And you also and it's through Saturday, which is April 27th. So I'm gonna take a few more and then I'm gonna get up out of here. It says Spags didn't do a thing for us in 2012. No, he did not do anything at all. He didn't do anything at all. But like I said, he's a really good coordinator. If Clint Kubiak wins with the offense, the Saints are going to make him an assistant head coach and pay him like a head coach. I mean, yeah, they probably will, but if somebody offer you a head coaching job, like that's what you want. That's what you aspire to do, aspire to be. If you're a coordinator like Clint Kubiak, I mean, his dad, Gary Kubiak, was a really good head coach. I mean, was a really good head coach for the Houston Texans, got a Super Bowl championship with the Denver Broncos. Yeah, I mean, it's what this guy aspires to do. So I don't know if you can dangle that carrot of prosperity in front of his face like that and think he's going to stick around. And Brandon says, just feel like if we can't confidently say we are a Super Bowl team with this current regime, then changes needs to be made. Well, look, no, everybody knows that this is not a Super Bowl team, Brandon. Like, I don't like. We all know this, right? And honestly, even if Sean Payton was still here, I still don't feel like this would be a Super Bowl team. This is a team that's just trying to figure it out and trying to find a new identity, whatever it may be. But you have to ask yourself, like, two seasons into it, and the team look like it's getting pretty bad. Do you have the right pieces in place? And as of right now, I'm saying no until they show me otherwise. I don't think Eagles head coach is all that either. He had good coaches and hell of a roster with Hurts out of nowhere playing at an MVP best player in the league at the quarterback position. That ain't happening with DA and Derek Carr. Yeah, but you got that TV on there and full blast up in the other room. But good Lord. But let's see. Oh, 1 second. And got the TV on full blast. But but back to what you were saying. Yeah, I mean, when you have really good coaches, it can cover up a lot of the head coaches' imperfections. That's why when you see Shane Steichen, like when he left and became the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, when that happened, you seen Jalen Hurts kind of take a step back. And I also feel like it was the same way with Josh Allen. Like Josh Allen had a really good season and had some really good seasons when Brian Daboll was his quarterback's coach and coordinator. And then all of a sudden, Daboll goes to the Giants, and then you see Josh Allen kind of taking a step back and making some pretty boneheaded mistakes at the quarterback position. But I want to say thank you all for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. Really do appreciate it. Much love to each and every one of you. Shouts out to everybody that's listening. Shouts out to everybody, no matter where you are, wherever you may be. Shouts out to the people that's going to be checking out this show after the show. Shouts out to the after show boys.
Shouts out, shouts out, shouts out, shouts out, shouts out. To them after show boys, shots out, shots out, shots out, shots out, shots out. To them after show boys, they be tweeting and be posting, they be tweeting and be posting, they be tweeting. Yeah, them after show boys, they be tweeting and be posting, they be tweeting and be posting, they be tweeting. Yeah, them after show boys.
Shouts out to all the after show boys. This has been the State of the Saints podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button. Previous episodes that are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor FM. Thank you all so much. Much love to you. Have a good morning, noon, night, whenever you're checking out this podcast. And like always, all I got to say is,
Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast.
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. It's all dog around this mug. I'm good.